from our perspective, someone who doesn't understand a bit of that, okay, all I'm seeing is this, right?
Yes.
Now, if I go up there and I did this, is it going to sound the same?
Probably not.
That's such a silly question. That might be the silliest question.
And I never realized the power of music until that time. When I play, I heard a lot of people start crying in the audience.
The way I was inspired after watching that, I would encourage all our viewers to go look that up because it's called Take Me Home, if I remember correctly.
Is the theme song. I think it's so important if people have that confidence in themselves instead of like relying on technology for everything. Having that confidence, I think it's even more important nowadays. And I know it's flat, but I couldn't do anything about it. And I was so exposed and it's just like...
Just take the L and...
I'm just like...
Welcome back to Funday Chat. I am your host, Wade, and we have our guest back with us, Noniko. And Noniko is the Arctic and Antarctica explorer. And on this particular episode, we are going to be talking about her music career. She is a flute player and has been playing for 20 plus years. And has been part of the LA Orchestra, debut orchestra principal flute.
So 1 year before.
That's pretty incredible. Like that's a real flute player in front of an orchestra, with an orchestra in front of an audience.
Yeah.
And you have performed also on these expeditions, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
I believe that's how my dad actually encountered you first on one of those on performances.
Yeah.
Then my dad was like, "Hey, you need to listen to this girl. She's very, very talented, has a lot of ideas." And then that's how the next show, I believe that's how I met you.
Yeah.
And now we're here. So concerning the flute aspect, can you tell us, because I have seen your YouTube channel, you perform the flute at different locations with different aesthetics, different vibes. So I want to know, what is the most unexpected places that you've ever played the flute?
A lot of unexpected places when I practice the flute.
Okay.
I could share that later.
All right.
But for music video, I would say my top choice would be either Cuba or Bermuda. These two are...
Bermuda, like the
Bermuda
Triangle?
Like the Bermuda Island.
Wow.
Like the Bermuda Island.
Okay.
I think these two are like my most unexpected place that I make a music video out of.
That's so crazy. So tell us the story behind those.
Yeah.
What was that?
So my childhood dream has always been that I want to make music videos around the world and tie in travel with my arrangement of music.
Yes.
That kind of was inspired by that place. And so when I started working on cruise ship, I was like, yes, this is my chance.
This is your chance.
This is my chance to kind of make this a reality.
Yes.
So it was hard. It was difficult because we don't always have a set amount of time for free to do whatever I want. So it's kind of like you collect 1 hour of filming here this time. And the next time you come by, you collect another 1 hour of filming.
Wow.
And then you collect another 1 hour of filming. And then you
piece
edit.
it all together.
Yeah, piece it all together.
Wow.
It was a real struggle, but it was really fun.
That's so cool. Okay, you mentioned something about, practicing at different places too.
Yeah.
Can you share some of those?
Yeah, so I have practiced at the onboard storage room.
Okay.
Like literally storage room. There's like nothing
With
in
all
there
the
but like boxes, storage.
Boxes. Okay.
And then I have used engine room as my practice space as
wow.
well. So yeah, all these strange places have been my practice room.
Wow. Well, I guess you have to make it work, right?
I have
Wherever
to make
you're
it work,
All right. So tell us your backstory. Like, how did you get into flute? Why did you pick flute? You mentioned you played piano before first.
Yeah, I do.
But what was your thing about flute that drew you to it?
Yeah, so my mom was a piano teacher.
Okay.
So I naturally learned piano when I was a kid, but I know I couldn't be good enough to major in piano.
Oh, really?
Well, sort of, when your mom is the piano teacher and then you're like, I don't want to play that instrument. Exactly.
I hear you.
So the second choice was I was, always going to the orchestral concert with my parents. And I asked her like, what's that shiny thing in the middle of an orchestra?
Ooh.
I want to play that bling bling thing.
Wow.
And
okay.
turn out that
Just
thing is the flute.
Eye.
Yeah, that's the flute.
So you started that at what age?
Around 10.
10?
Yeah.
So wow, 20-something years. Now, how long does it kind of take, I guess, to be a professional flute player?
Like forever.
Like you're still perfecting your craft?
Yeah.
But like you started at 10 and then just went for classes
and then went for classes, did some competition. Never thought I would major in music until like high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what made that switch? What made you then be like, let me take this seriously?
So there was one summer camp I did when I was going from middle school to high school. It was a summer camp. It was in Seattle. And at the end of the summer camp, there's a talent show. And I signed up for the talent show out of fun and wanted to play the flute. Some people sing. And I never realized the power of music until that time. When I play, I heard a lot of people start crying in the audience. Like, look, I was a middle school kid. I didn't feel like I played that well. But then some teachers starts weeping. Some of my classmates starts crying. And then at the end, I asked them, like, what's going on? They're like, no, it's just like we're all away from home for like 3 weeks. And your music just reminds us, you know, some people reminds of home, family, loved ones, or reminds them of something. And they're like, it's just so touched. And I was like, it's the first time I felt music has real power of moving people, and I was like, I want to do that. Like I want to continue doing that.
Yeah. Wow. Do you remember what song you
played? Titanic.
Titanic. Wow. My heart will go on.
Go on. Yes.
You were thinking about Jack and Rose, like Jack. That's beautiful. Well, do you have a favorite piece of music that you like playing?
A lot.
You have a lot?
Right now, my favorite is Game of Thrones. My own arrangement, like my arrangement of Game of Thrones.
Wow. Yeah. Okay,
it's a really good work because I really like it.
Yeah. Well, maybe let's do the plug now. Where can people actually find you if they want to hear these music and see these music videos? Yeah,
so if you just search my name, Noniko Xu, on Spotify, I'm on all major streaming platforms, whichever you prefer. Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, you can find me.
Okay. And yeah, I remember finding your YouTube videos on your channel, and then you can see all the different arrangements playing at different places.
Playing at different places.
The Bermuda video on there.
The Bermuda and the Cuba one.
Okay, very nice. Now, as a musician, what would you say is your biggest influencer? Like, who did you aspire to? Personally, I don't think I know any flute musicians, unfortunately. But like, who are some people that inspired you to kind of like strive for greatness?
Yeah, so actually my biggest inspirations came from crossover musician. So names that probably you would know. Lindsey Sterling, the dancing violinist.
Oh.
Yeah, and the piano guys.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I can name a few more, but they're all in the crossover genre.
Gotcha.
They were all classically trained, but then they mix the music to their own taste.
Yeah.
And they put out these shows that all have individual style, which is what I love.
Wow. Okay, so that's your inspiration to kind of like
fuel multimedia and also creativity and also put classical music style into some of everybody's favorite tune and make it yours. Like make a concert worthy.
Modern twist to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's actually that's a great path to take. Just because I think it's, let's say it's maybe more of a niche thing to be able to like really appreciate one particular, you know, instrument. But I think like anyone who hears like, let's say Pirates of the Caribbean can be like, oh, I know this tune. Yeah. But then like hearing your take on it and your arrangement, like that would be so interesting.
Yeah. And then I actually filmed my Pirates of the Caribbean at Malibu, California. Wow. And I dressed myself as a pirate. Like I bought a pirate costume and make a video out of it. And I was like, that's just so fun. And I love doing that.
You know what? Can you take us through the process? How do you plan these videos? Like you just described, let's say, obviously maybe a particular location. So that'll give you the setting.
Yeah.
The music style will give you some idea. But like, how do you arrange? How do you make your own arrangement?
Yeah, so making an arrangement is a really fun process. So you first pick the music, and then I have some references of what I want each section to be. So some styles I really love is the Vivaldi concerto style. They have some flourishing techniques that show off a musician's classical training, and I would infuse those techniques into the existing chords and existing melodies. And then for the filming, if I was traveling on cruise ship, then I have to really think about how much time I have. Right. Do I have a photographer?
Yes.
Like that's a very important thing.
Right, yeah.
And then finding locations that kind of work. But if I have the time, if I have the budget, then I would just leave it all to the photographer. Like I have a very good friend in LA who is a professional videographer. I love his style. So usually I would just tell him, I want to film Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
I have a pirate costume. Yeah. This is my music. Can you pick the best beach?
Wow.
And then he would take me to the location that he knows is going to work.
Yeah. Now from the concept and the idea to us seeing this music video, how much time does that all take? I'm sure it will vary.
It will vary.
Like how much time and work does it take?
If I can do it all in a run, like if there's nothing blocking in between, if I were focused, it can all be done within half a year.
Okay.
But that never happens.
But
that never happens because I have to find my travel times. I have to line up the location. I have to see where I can be. So like I said, the work probably takes 6 months, but with the chunk of time in between. Yeah.
That actually, just shows you how much more I think goes on behind the scenes that most of us don't think about. We might see a music video and be like, all right, they had an idea. Maybe they wanted to be at the beach. They had this outfit and they just play the music. But it's not like that.
It's not like that.
Yeah, I think conversations like this is important to give people context. Because like myself, I probably just made assumptions like, oh, it's, it can be done easily. But obviously you have to recognize people have other things lined up and there's so much planning that goes into play. But even just like coming up with your own arrangements, that's something that's I think you have to insert creativity, you have to insert effort and time. Because I personally am a musician as well, but I do the guitar, but I'm not anywhere to your level. I mainly just like play chords and I, play the guitar, so I can play songs, and I mainly play at church. But I think I really appreciate the aspect of being able to express yourself through that music. So can you maybe tell us like, what do you feel like? How do you feel playing the flute kind of gives you that sense of expression?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So after I've been traveling for so long, I feel like each song to me, it has a story because I can tie a sense of belongingness to each of these music because they might be created during a certain period of time or when I was inspired by a certain view or area. So for me now, each piece is extra special. So like after I've been traveling to the polar regions for the past 3 years, I released an album that's like polar songs inspiration. They're all worship songs in general, but I infuse them with what I feel inspired by these polar area beauties. And they mean a lot to me because I can specifically pinpoint to a moment of like, this day inspired this song. Yeah,
I think that's so cool because I think when you go to concerts and you listen to musicians or artists, and I mean you can appreciate their artistry and their songs, but like hearing the backstory to how they kind of like was inspired by this thing, or this was a period of their life that they were going through that really like gave them that idea, it makes the song so much more powerful.
It makes it special.
And this is actually reminding me of the talk I attended when I was on cruise with you, where you were mentioning, I think, was it some of your classmates that had also worked on
the BBC Frozen Planet too? Yes.
And my goodness, the song that they played, composed by Hans Zimmer. Right?
It was a group with Hans Zimmer.
And Aurora was the
lead
artist,
singer.
the singer. The way I was inspired after watching that, I would encourage all of viewers to go look that up because it's called "Take Me Home." If I remember correctly.
It's the theme song.
I mean, my goodness, being there, especially, we were in the Antarctica, and listening to the song and like witnessing the images, and then like knowing that I'm actually in that places where many of these sceneries take place. Like, it was absolutely all inspiring, and I just it hits you in the feels. So whatever, you know, your you know, when you were in primary school or when you were performing, and whatever the students and teachers were feeling, like, I think that's the sense that music has that power to move us, to shift us, and give us these fresh perspectives and feelings. And I appreciate that so much, because I still listen to that song when I go out in nature and I'm hiking, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
so
it's the
incredible.
Perfect soundtrack, isn't it?
So incredible. But anyway, getting back to some of your flute aspects, when it comes to, like, let's say preparing to play the flute, is there anything, like, just from a technical basis, do you guys have to do to prepare? Because I know, I mean, for flute, it seems like you need to have a big lung, right? Like, you need to have enough
air.
Air. So are there things that you guys have to practice, or are there things that you guys do?
There's a lot of tips and tricks that we pick up from different teachers. I really love doing scales and arpeggio, like these basic or long-term practice. They are the basics, and they help to keep your skills sharp, like throughout the years, even when you don't have concerts. Like, it's important to just run through the basics so that when you have a concert, it's not like, oh, I feel rusty now. So like long-term scales, arpeggios, or even just spend some time. Like, nowadays, I still take some time, like maybe one day out of a month, to just grab one of my favorite orchestral piece and then play with an orchestra, like just find on YouTube, and then play my flute part. That kind of sharpens my listening to still feel like, how do you play with a group? Because sometimes when you be a soloist for too long, you forgot how to play with the big groups. So sometimes I still play alone with an orchestra from YouTube, and then just play my flute part. And then imagine yourself in that space. So to remember, keep your memory sharp of how to play with people.
Well, so you mentioned that you played in the LA debut. And can you tell us what was that actually like, and what is the difference between, like, playing by yourself versus playing in a group?
So playing by yourself is really fun because all the spotlights are on you. And the success or not of the show is also on you.
So the pressure is on.
The pressure is on. However, with an orchestra, you are playing different role at different minutes. Especially as principal flute. There are moments where it's your solo. You have to shine. But then you shine for maybe 3 bars, and then you have to learn to take back. And when you're playing harmonies, you have to know to play with the oboe.
To be in sync.
You have to in sync with the oboe, but knowing you're not overtaking them. Or when you're playing counterpart with maybe the cello, then you have to listen across the hall to what the principal cello is doing. And then you play harmony under them, give enough support, but not overtaking it. And then again, at the end of the day, it's the conductor that's putting everyone together, right? You want to go fast or you want to go slow. It's not your call. It's the conductor's call. And they have to listen around you for what everyone else is doing.
Okay. I go to concerts with my grandpa and we listen to orchestras, and I'm always curious, is it, because you just mentioned this about, like, the conductor is the one that's, like, you know, giving you guys the cue. But, like, from our perspective, someone who doesn't understand a bit of that, okay, all I'm seeing is this, right? Now, if I go up there and I did this, is it going to sound the same?
Probably not.
That's such a silly question. That might be the silliest question I've ever asked. But, okay, because can you explain more from the conductor side of things? What exactly is he controlling? So speed, I'm assuming.
Is a basic.
Sound, like loud, soft.
Yes.
Tempo,
yes.
Okay, but is that his main job? Just to make sure, like, okay, I want you a little more. Like, I can hear he's less.
Like a little less. That's the basic.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the basic. So Because there's usually like hundreds of people, right?
Yes.
So you have to put everyone on the same page.
Right.
So conductor is there to basically control the tempo, make sure everyone is on par, and the sound, who needs a little bit less, who needs a little bit more. But then in the advanced orchestra, then conductors are also responsible for interpreting the music.
Okay.
And he needs to convey what his interpretation is to the members.
Yes.
So that's when rehearsal happened. He would tell us, because of XYZ reason, he really believed this section needs to reflect what emotion. And then he would say, because to reflect this emotion, maybe the trumpet, you need to be sharper.
I see.
And somebody else, you need to go a little bit lower or something. So it's a lot of communication going on of what his idea of a certain piece should be
interpreted.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, in that sense, does that mean each conductor would actually have to know every single instrument, or do they just have a good enough base of like, oh, I know how this should work or how that should work?
They don't have to know how to play the instruments, but they do need to know the special aspects and what role each instrument plays in particularly this piece.
Right, okay.
So what conductors study is the whole score. What we say is the whole score.
Yes.
So not like us, we just play our part. But the conductor needs to read like all the lines.
That's crazy.
They need to know who is happening what.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oof, you know what? So much more respect for them now.
Oh yeah.
Because
it's a big job.
When I'm back there, I'm just okay. I apologize to on conductors. You guys are doing great work. Now coming back to the flute aspect, when you are playing your part, I mean, have you ever like messed up? Let's talk about some of our failures and how have you improved from that, or how do you come back from that? Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We messed up a lot.
yeah.
A lot. So especially in like slow movements, that there are flute solo, and I remember clearly back in high school, there's like a flute solo in the very slow part when I'm so exposed. Yeah. Like all the other instruments are like quiet. It's me. And my last note was just so out of tune. Like it was so flat, and I didn't have the ability to control the tuning at that time and I know it's flat, but I couldn't do anything about it, and I was so exposed, and it's just like
to take the L, and
I'm just like
wow. Well, I mean, I think that's just part of, the journey. Yeah. That like we have moments where we can shine, and I think it all really comes down to then like how much we practice, right? And how much work goes before all of that. Because when I watch these orchestras or like these musicians, and you guys seem effortless. It seemed effortless. They're just doing their part. They have the emotion. They have all of it, but that comes at the back of all of these things you're talking about, practicing in the engine room, practicing in random places, but putting in the work so that when you come to the moment that you can shine, right? Yeah. Now, what do you think is the hardest thing about playing a flute?
Playing the flute in general?
Yeah.
Flute is an instrument that looks so light, but actually requires the most air. Like one of the wind instruments that requires the most air. Yeah. Even though it looks so tiny, but because half of our air goes to waste.
Transfer.
Yeah, it's not like the oboe or the clarinet where you put the whole mouthpiece in your mouth, so your full air is going in. But for flute, half the air is gone. Oof. So flute is tiny, but it actually is one of the wind instruments that takes out the most breath, the most air. Yeah. So flute is very difficult to start because usually kids would start getting dizzy after playing it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They don't have the lung capacity.
They don't have the lung capacity, and also all the air goes out. It's gone. Yeah. So it's very difficult to start, and then it's a very high register wind instrument. So also you're getting dizzy from out of breath, and you're getting dizzy from playing high notes.
Yeah, just keep.
Yeah, exactly. So it was difficult. Yeah. But I love it. I still think it's the shiniest instrument, and I love it.
Yeah, and you made it this far. That's so cool. All right, so let's talk about some of the most rewarding part, I guess, of performing, and maybe again the other side that you don't see, that's maybe not the best.
Yeah. what I still love performing as the same reason as why I chose music when I was a high school student is every time I put out a concert, I still strive for getting the feedback from my audience that it has moved them in some degree, or it has reminded them of something, their story. So that's still my aim, and that's my goal for my music is to inspire people, ignite some raw emotions from them. So that's the most satisfying thing for me as an artist.
Yeah.
But the most difficult part of being an artist is definitely still getting the job, getting the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's just a very difficult career path to be a full-time musician.
Right.
Like if you want to be a full-time musician, it's just so difficult.
Yeah, because I guess considering there would be, I'm assuming, a lot of people that are in the field, but the ones that really, really stand out, you have to be
the top 0.1%.
Yeah,
it's just difficult.
And with that relating to Taiwan, do you see a difference, like playing here in, like, let's say Taiwan and in, let's say, the Asian environment versus all other parts of the world that you've been to?
Not really. I would say being an artist is difficult in general, in the world. I don't think it really matters which area you are.
Okay.
I do think you get more respect when you are in Europe or in the States.
Yes, okay.
Even though those respect may not actually turn into dollars, but emotionally you do feel more respect when you're in Europe or the Americas.
Yes.
When you tell people you're an artist, you can feel like people actually respect
what it is
and the effort that you put in versus in Taiwan. Yeah.
Not as much.
Maybe not as much, even if when you are in both places, you might end up earning the same amount. But I do feel like the emotional aspect, it plays a big role. Most artists do it because they love it. So they want to feel appreciated.
Yeah. Well, maybe in some sense, if I think about it, I'm wondering if it's just something that, like in Taiwan, almost every single children, when they're being raised, the parent kind of have an expectation like school, 补习班, and pick an instrument, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's almost like, oh, everybody should, like, it's almost like you should know. Like, why don't you? Why don't you know how to play an instrument, So I wonder if it's that aspect that they don't maybe then put as much like, wow, it's impressive that you got to where you are, or or that you carried on with it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, you play the flute? Oh, yeah, my kid plays the flute.
Something like that. It's like, everyone learn it. It's not special.
Right. But I think, for sure, like seeing the amount of work that you guys have to put into it, I'd really admire that. Because I think you for sure have to have a passion for it to get to where you are now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, to close off here, after you having your own experience, what would you encourage, let's say, other people when it comes to the importance of learning an instrument just in general? Because personally, I feel it's such a great way of expressing a different way of expressing yourself. So why would you think it's something that's important that you would actually encourage other people to learn?
I think it's very important to learn an instrument, doesn't matter which one.
Yes.
Even more important nowadays with the rise of AI and with the rise of technology, I think it's even more important to learn something that cannot be replaced by technology.
Yeah.
We are into the era now where being an expert of something can be so easy.
Yes.
And people forget about the importance of using time and labor to build a skill set that belongs to you and you only. And the confidence that that even if one day your computer failed, you still can do what you do.
Yes.
I think it's so important if people have that confidence in themselves instead of like relying on technology for everything. Having that confidence, I think it's even more important nowadays. And art, any kind of art, music, or any kind of athletic can help you build that, because none of these can happen in 1 year or 2 years. Nothing. You cannot get that. And I think kids need to have that groundings in the back of their mind.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's why I would also very much encourage the future generation to also, continue to pursue these things. And of course, I think it is hard in the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah.
Any of us that have been through it would say it was hard to have to actually put the practice or like practice the lung. Like all of this is a process, but I do believe it is something that's worth pursuing at the very end.
Yeah.
And last question here, just like what advice would you give to another musician, or like let's say a younger musician who is on that path, but like they're feeling like, is it worth it? Like, is it even gonna matter? Like, what if nobody hears my music? Like all of these things that they might, go through their head. Like, what's the advice you'd give them to kind of push on?
I think it's important to accept the fact that those questions, self-doubts are just always going to be there. Like just accept it. It's part of the journey. It's always going to be there. Accept it, live with it, and kind of tune in. Find yourself. Like what's your own reason for playing?
Yes.
And not to put that reason on something outside of yourself.
Right.
Because otherwise you're so easily affected by society, other people.
Yeah.
And also the other advice is a very practical one, is it is difficult to make a living with art, with music. Love it. And if you feel like having a reliable living is important for you, you can always learn a different skill set.
Yeah.
Always learn a new one. I mean, we spent 20 years perfecting the flute. I think every other skill doesn't need to take 20 years. So it shouldn't be that terrible,
Right.
Like learn a different skill set, but continue playing or practicing for you, like for your own reason. Then in that sense, I think it's you can go a longer way. Yeah.
No, that's great advice. Because I think most things in the beginning, it might be, you might feel forced. You might feel like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. But if you do push past that and you recognize, let's say, this is a way of me feeling like I could express myself in such a unique perspective, and you make it your own and you do fall in love with it, that you should do it for you, right? Because I think, again, it's sort of like, where you are now, you didn't anticipate to be here, like 10, 20 years ago.
No.
And now you're able to use the flute to also incorporate, places that you travel to and do all these expeditions. And so, music is such a beautiful way that we get to express ourselves, but another way to just unify. Music is a global language.
It is a global language.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to communicate and connect with others. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Noniko, for
Wade.
your expertise in sharing the music. And again, with the polar expeditions, it was great having you and great having these conversations.
Thank you so much for having me.
We wish you everything of the best for your future travels.
Thank you.
And we look forward to continue to follow your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. That'll be the end of this episode, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.